What if I told you? There once lived a cricketer who spent the first 7 years of his career sitting on the sidelines, carrying drinks, getting dropped, and constantly being told that he wasn't good enough, and still ended up becoming one of the most feared opening batsmen in the history of cricket. Big, tall, intimidating. A chest like a brick wall and a stare that could melt the ball. This man would literally walk down the pitch to fast bowlers like it was a casual Sunday stroll, and then smash them to all corners of the ground. His name? Matthew Lawrence Hayden. Our story begins on 29th October 1971 in Kingroy, Queensland. A small town known for peanuts, not powerhouse cricketers. But Hayden was different from the very start. At just 3 years old, he picked up a bat, pads covering half his body, helmet looking like a bucket, and faced off against his 8-year-old brother with more determination than most adults at work. That was Hayden's first duel, and even then, you could sense the beginnings of a legend. By the time he was 20, Hayden made his first-class debut for Queensland. And before walking out to bat, he asked someone in the dressing room, "Has anyone ever scored 200 on debut?" They said no. So what did he do? He went out and smashed 149. Not quite 200, but enough to send a message. This bloke doesn't do ordinary. Run after run, season after season, he battered domestic attacks. And finally, he got the call every young cricketer dreams of, the baggy green. But here's where the fairy tale got ugly. Hayden's Test debut in 1994 against South Africa lasted about as long as a coffee break. He scored 15 and 5. On that same tour, Michael Slater grabbed the opening spot and ran away with it. He got another go in 1996-97 against the West Indies and South Africa. And to be fair, he did score his first Test 100. But then, 4 ducks, a batting average of 24, and the door slammed shut. Again. Australia moved on. They had Mark Taylor, Slater, Matthew Elliott, plenty of options. Hayden was just another maybe in a golden generation. And at one point, he was even compared to Graham Hick, a guy known for scoring mountains of runs in domestic cricket, but never quite cracking the international level. And in ODIs? Don't even ask. He played 13 matches in 1993-94 and was dropped for 6 straight years. 6 years of waiting, watching, training, and believing. But instead of giving up, Hayden went back to Queensland and kept grinding. He scored runs like he was angry at the scoreboard. He reinvented his game, his mindset, and his body. And by 1999, when he got his second chance, he was no longer the same player. He was a volcano waiting to erupt. And that eruption came in India 2001, the tour that changed everything. Australia came to India with one mission: to conquer the subcontinent. Instead, they found turning pitches, wild crowds, and an unstoppable Matthew Hayden. In 3 tests, Hayden scored 549 runs at an average of 109.8 against Harbhajan Singh on turning tracks that made other Aussies look clueless. Hayden danced down the pitch, sweeping like a madman and dominating like never before. And it wasn't a fluke. Before that tour, Hayden trained on underprepared dirt pitches in Brisbane, working with his brother Gary. He practiced the sweep shot for hours because he knew India would demand it. And when the time came, he executed like an artist who had waited years for his stage. Before that series, Hayden averaged 24 from 13 tests. After it, he averaged 54.65 across the next 90 tests. The same can be said about his ODI career. He went from 29.81 to 45.61. That wasn't improvement, that was a full-blown rebirth. And then came the beast mode. From 2001 to 2005, Hayden entered a zone only legends find. He scored over 1,000 test runs in 5 consecutive years. Something no man had ever done before. Every innings felt like a war, and he was the general marching forward. And then, in October 2003, he produced something out of a dream. Against Zimbabwe at the Waka, Hayden batted for nearly 2 days straight and scored 380 runs off just 437 balls, smashing Brian Lara's record of 375. That 380 still stands as the highest score ever by an Australian. Lara may have reclaimed the world record later, but Hayden had already made his statement. He was here to dominate, not to compare. Now, let's talk about Hayden's batting. He wasn't elegant like Lara or Gower. He was violent, raw, and unstoppable. Against the quickest bowlers, he'd march down the pitch, plant that massive front foot, and send the ball into orbit. If it was full, he'd muscle it through the arc between extra cover and mid-wicket. If it was short, bang, it disappeared into the stands. Even his forward defense looked angry, like he was saying, "Don't you dare bowl that again." English seamer Matthew Hoggard once said, Hayden was the batsman he feared most. It was the way he came at you, bloody terrifying. And when it came to playing spin, Hayden was a nightmare for bowlers. He averaged 59 against India, Australia's toughest opponents at the time. To put that in perspective, Ponting averaged 47, Gilchrist 28, Steve Waugh 42. Hayden was the one man who always stood tall when Australia needed a fight in the subcontinent. Every Batman needs a Robin, and Hayden found this in Justin Langer. Now imagine this. One end, you've got Hayden, all muscle and menace. At the other, Justin Langer, gritty, scrappy, full of fight. Together, they became the backbone of Australia's Test dominance in the 2000s. Over 100 innings together, they made 5,655 runs at an average of 51.88. The second most prolific opening pair in history, only behind Greenwich and Haynes. They were complete opposites. Langer looked like a school teacher. Hayden looked like he could bench press the stumps, but together, they tormented bowlers worldwide. They once described their partnership as a marriage, full of communication, understanding, and the occasional argument about who'd make the coffee. In 2007-2008, Hayden became only the third Australian after Batsmen and Boone to score 3 or more hundreds in a test series against India. But if you think Hayden was just a test bully, you clearly missed the 2007 World Cup. That tournament was Hayden's world. He smashed 659 runs at an average of 73, hitting 3 centuries before the Super 8 section of the tournament was even complete, becoming only the third player to achieve this feat after Mark Waugh and Sourav Ganguly. His 100 against South Africa came off just 66 balls, setting the fastest century record in World Cup history at the time. He batted like a man possessed, stepping out, clearing fields, and reducing world-class attacks to rubble. After one innings, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis even gave him honorary citizenship. Imagine that. You play so well that an entire country decides, yeah, you can be one of us. At the end of that year, Hayden was named ICC ODI Player of the Year, and for good reason. But as with all great warriors, time eventually caught up. In the 2008-2009 season, Hayden's reflexes slowed, his timing wavered, and the once invincible giant began to fade. In 9 tests against India, New Zealand and South Africa, he managed just 383 runs at an average of 23. And finally, the selectors pulled the plug. Hayden, being Hayden, didn't wait around. He simply announced his retirement before the 2009 South Africa tour, packed up his fishing gear, and walked away, quietly, like a legend exiting on his own terms. By the time Matthew Hayden retired, he had etched his name among the immortals. In 103 tests, he scored 8,625 runs at an average of 50.73 with 30 centuries, a mark that placed him among the few Australians to score more test hundreds than Don Bradman himself. In ODIs, he added 6,133 runs at an average of 43.8. And even in T20s, he averaged a jaw-dropping 51.33 with a strike rate of nearly 144. But Matthew Hayden wasn't a product of privilege or prodigious talent. He was a product of grit, self-belief, and relentless hard work. A man who turned rejection into fuel. A man who trained on dirt pitches, fought through failure, and emerged as a symbol of dominance. He wasn't delicate like Lara, nor stylish like Ponting. But when Hayden was at the crease, you felt fear, you felt energy, you felt something primal. So how good was Matthew Hayden? Let's just say, when the big man from Queensland walked out with that bat in hand, even the best bowlers in the world started praying for rain. Because when Matthew Hayden got going, there wasn't a ground big enough to contain him, or a bowler brave enough to stop him. So guys, that's it for today's video. If you want to see how good was Adam Gilchrist or Ricky Ponting, click on the videos being displayed on your screen.